So, morning exposure to sunlight, does it make a difference? In this video, I am going to tell you a little bit about what the science says and a little bit about what my own experience has been. Sleep is critical to everything we do. It impacts everything. It impacts how we function throughout the day. It impacts how we make decisions. It impacts how we communicate and interact with other people. We know we can all be a little bit cranky when we're functioning on very little sleep. We all have an internal system that seems to be the boss of when and how we sleep, and that is our circadian rhythm. There are all kinds of things that interfere, disrupt, interrupt our circadian rhythm, but one thing that has the biggest impact is exposure to daylight, morning light in particular, within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. And so a little bit about the science. Now remember, I am not a scientist. I'm not an expert. I am going to link you up with some of the experts so you can check in my discussion notes below. I am going to just highlight some of the basic science behind this because it is based on science. This isn't just something that we're thinking is woo-woo, oh, whoa, get some sun, you'll sleep better. There is science behind this and it makes good sense. And so what happens is when we get that natural daylight in our eyes in the morning, it triggers a whole bunch of things to happen in our system. Remember back in high school science when you would learn about cones and rods in our eyes, those photoreceptors? Well, they have a big part in this. There's a little synchronization and action that takes place, and that these cones and rods, I always remember cones were for color, rods were for light. I should check that. Don't go by that. That's just what I remember. I always remember the C for cones and C for color. That's going back a long time to high school science. And so these photoreceptors, that's what we need the sunlight or the daylight to get into our eyes, into the back of our eyes, into these photoreceptors to start to activate a whole bunch of things that happen. And in particular, again, I'm not a scientist, so I can't talk about the nitty gritty of it, but Andrew Huberman can, so check out his podcast. It is fabulous. But basically, from a non-scientific person's perspective, is that when we get daylight or natural light in our eyes, there are a few things that happen. One is it starts some hormone regulation for us. And so there are a few hormones in particular. The big one we all know as melatonin is the sleep-inducing hormone. So I'll talk about that one in just a second. But the first one is cortisol. You know, the hormone that we often think of as the stress-inducing, the stress-causing hormone? Not all stress is bad. The cortisol that we think about as the bad hormone, the stress hormone, we have a little spike of cortisol every 24 hours. A healthy spike, a spike that makes us alert and gets us ready for our day. At the same time, and this is why our bodies are so amazing when we think about it. We know that, well, I don't know, the scientists know, I'm learning from them, that at the same time, it sends a signal to our body to, okay, stop producing melatonin, that sleep-inducing hormone. And there's also another hormone. There's probably all kinds, but the three I'm talking about, the third hormone that is impacted is serotonin. You know, that feel-good chemical in our body? It impacts things like increasing alertness, putting you in a better mood, lowering your stress level, boosting your energy level, in addition to regulating your sleep. And it costs nothing in only a few minutes every day. So how long do we actually need? Well, the timelines are pretty defined. And so on a sunny day, when the sun is actually out and shining, about 5 or 10 minutes is all it takes to get the magic started. Don't look right at the sun. Now, we know that that would not be good for our eyes. On a cloudy day, I think they say around 20 minutes. And on a rainy day, a little bit longer, about a half an hour. So I often skip the rainy days. I know, I'm still learning. I'm a work in progress because I just don't like being out in the rain. But every once in a while, I'll go out on a rainy day just to prove to myself that I can do it. But I usually don't last the full half hour. Oh, and hold on. That's not everything. The miracles continue. All the cells in our body have their own little circadian rhythm. Like there's quite an orchestra we're trying to coordinate here. This daylight exposure also activates an internal timer for sleep. About 16 hours after this morning sunlight, your body starts to produce melatonin and gets you ready for sleep. They're all working together, coordinating this beautiful orchestra of biological processes in our system, all triggered by sunlight or natural daylight. And if you don't get outside, one of the common questions that I had when I started was, oh my God, do you have to do this every day? Or is it like 2 or 3 times a week? And the science tells us that you really should do it every day. Not a huge issue if you miss one day, but if you start to miss multiple days, you'll see the impacts of that. And my actual experience has been just that. I've been doing this morning exposure to light for since summer. So I don't know, we are February, so about 7 or 8 months now.
And as you can see, my dog hates to miss out on all the fun.
I can get by with skipping a day and sometimes even 2 days, but rarely I skip 2 days. I'm so consistent with it because the impacts have made such a difference in my life and how I am sleeping. And I am not exaggerating when I say my entire adult life I have struggled with sleep. And so I am pretty committed to it. But there have been occasions traveling or if something else happens that I'll miss one day, sometimes 2 days. I find if I miss even one day, I'm a little off. I don't sleep as well. But if I miss a couple days, then I'm starting to really notice kind of slipping back into that routine. I still wake up a lot through the night, but the thing that has never happened to me before, I can go right back to sleep. It is so much better than it was, so much better. And when you wake up after a good night's sleep, what a difference in every aspect of our day. We feel it in everything from our mood to our energy to just our attitude on life. Another question that I've seen online a lot, this wasn't really an issue for me because I'm not an early riser, but another question is, what if I'm up before the sun? And so one of the things, so I did a little bit of searching online to see, okay, so what are you supposed to do? And basically it's about getting as much light in your eyes as possible. And so if you are up before the sun, turn on as many overhead lights as possible and try to expose yourself to light that way. And then when the sun does come out or when the daylight does break, just to get out and have as much daylight time as you can, even in the middle of the afternoon. But when you first get up, turn those lights on, those overhead lights, to start the exposure. It is not the same effect because the amount of light energy that you get from indoor light is not anything comparable to the outdoor natural light, but it still starts the process and every little bit helps. Get out, get that daylight in your eyes, and sleep better, my friends.
Okay, if you've made it to this far, the very end, I'm going to share a couple of my bloopers with you. It sometimes takes multiple recordings for me to get this right. Have a look, have a laugh.
Still trying to figure out how to maneuver this selfie stick, and rarely do we have a day that, oh, hey, my hood's not staying up, so I guess I'll have to take it down. My channel is Lead Your Living. Whew, I'm huffing and puffing, the wind is blowing, and that was quite a hill to hike. It gets us ready for today. Not today necessarily. I'm trying to get the wind at my back so we won't hear it in the camera. Oops, I got some flyaway hairs here. Oh, here comes the sun again. Oh yeah, see, I want to close my eyes. And I have my husband's jacket on. He doesn't know that I sometimes sneak and put this on around the yard. Surprise, honey. And that's it. My channel is Lead Your Living, your wellness, your work, your leisure. I would so appreciate it if any of this information is relevant or resonated with you. Give me a like, leave a comment, or subscribe.
Remember, I'm not a health expert. This is simply my own experience. Always discuss new health initiatives with your primary care provider. This is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not medical advice.